Hello and welcome to the group stage match of the Jeto Cup. So we have the Red Muscular Beast versus the Null Victory.
Radiance fan.
The Red Muscular Beast is on the Dire, while Nuvi or Null Victory is on the Radiant side. So if I'm not mistaken, this is the first time, at least in the group stages, that these two teams will be fighting each other.
Seconds.
So right now they're on their first ban phase. So,
Reserve time.
this is interesting since Null Victory is already dipping to the reserve time, but they quickly
Trios ban.
banned the Weaver. Weaver is a very flexible carry. He can go in the safe lane. He can go in the off lane thanks to his Shikuchi, and occasionally you can even see him mid. Oh yes, and I forgot to introduce myself. This is Charles Stan, and I'm casting here for the Jeto Cup. So now it's a Red Masker Beast's turn to ban, and they ban the Batrider. The Batrider is a very powerful initiator with his lasso. He can isolate heroes and quickly turn around fights. I mean, if you're talking about initiation, a 5-on-5 can quickly turn to a 4 versus 5. And in terms of laning, he can go either in the safe lane. He could go either in the off lane or he could go mid lane. And he always has the option to go to the jungle if things are dire for him, so to speak. So now, Null Victory bans their second hero. They go for the Life Stealer, also known as Nikes in the Dota 1.
Radiance pick.
So now Red Muscular Beast bans the OD, a very annoying mid hero or sometimes even carry. Yeah, in Dota 2 we call him Outer Devourer. I know him as Obsidian Destroyer from Dota 1. Now Null Victory picks their first hero, and it's the Alchemist. What's good about the Alchemist is he has Grievous Greed, which lets him farm very quickly since it provides bonus gold. But occasionally we've also seen the Alchemist being played as a mid hero, in which case you don't skill Grievous Greed but skill Acid Spray and Unstable Concoction. And sometimes, more rarely, we also see him in the support role because he has a stun and that Acid Spray is useful. But most likely this is going to be a safe at the very hard carry Alchemist. The question really is now depending on the lineup of Null Victory, whether he's going to be in the safe lane or part of an aggressive trial lane. So now it's Red Muscular Beast's turn to pick. They have two choices. So their first one is the Darkseer. The Darkseer is usually your off-lane hero, and what's interesting with him is that with Ion Shell, he can find farm. Although getting XP might be difficult, but that's what Surge is for. So that he can escape out of there. And if worst comes to worst, you can just stack the creeps in the jungle and farm there. And Red Muscular Beast also picks their second hero, which is the Jakiro. It's support, and his Ice Path provides a stun and can set up several combinations depending on the other supports that they pick or even their carry. So Null Victory picks their second hero, which is the Nyx Assassin. He's a very level dependent support. You really need levels on that Impale, and he becomes a real threat with Vendetta. Of course, in the early game when your Impale actually doesn't have that much range, so you really want to level this up. Or at least the damage isn't that much, and the stun duration. So the Red Muscular Beast bans the Silencer, while the Null Victory bans the Naga Siren. Both are usually played as supports, but of course they can also lane actually in mid or even more rarely as a hard carry.
5 seconds.
What's interesting about the Naga Siren is that she was played as a hard carry last year, but now is
Double
finding
team
a
ban.
new place as a support. So interesting ban here by Null Victory, the Doom. I'm not a big fan of Doom as a hard carry. I'm actually fond of him in mid. I mean, he has some farming ability due to
10
his
seconds to
skill
go.
Devourer, but I think he really lacks those
5 seconds.
crucial abilities. I mean, but I like him mid because he has nukes with level death, and of course Doom.
Dyer's
But
pit.
sa hard carry, he doesn't provide as much compared to other hard carries like an anti-mage. So Red Mask Kirby bans the Magnus, which is a which is usually laned either in mid or in off lane. Yeah, it has a very powerful ultimate, the RP, which can turn around team fights since it's an area stun. So now it's Red Mask Kirby's turn to pick. I expect they might go now for their mid hero, and
10
it's probably going to
seconds
be
to
int
go.
based hero since they did ban the
5
OD. So to
seconds.
me, the Telegraphs they want either Queen of Pain, a Puck, or even a Storm
Reserve
Spirit. I
guard.
mean, those are popular choices. So they picked their support.
Radiant's pit.
It's the Shadow Demon, and I like this with in combination with the Jakiro. I mean, what makes the Shadow Demon very good is his disruption, which can set up stuns of the delayed stuns of other heroes. In this case, the Ice Path. So you disrupt the enemy hero, and then the enemy can time their Ice Path, and then depending on who
10
their
seconds to
carry
go.
is, you can easily get that first
5
kill. And
seconds.
you know, Shadow Demon is actually a support that scales well. I mean, late game, you can disrupt
Reserve
enemies,
guard.
and those illusions are just as powerful as the enemy. So, for example, if you disrupt the anti-mage, the illusions you create will also have his mana burn.
Dyer's pit.
So now a Null Victory picks the Rubik. Uh, Rubik provides a lot of utility. I mean, you have an AoE slash enemy weakening with Fade Bolt,
Radiant's pit.
and you have telekinesis as a disable, and of course his spell steal is very good. I mean, here you can steal the vacuum wall, or sorry, the wall of replica, or even the chronosphere of the Faceless Void. Although yeah, this is the fourth pick of the Red Mask Kirby, so I guess they're saving their mid hero for last.
10
And the
seconds
Faceless
to
Void is
go.
one of the hardest carries. He really needs a lot of items, but
5
he
seconds.
has a powerful ultimate, just the Chronosphere. You can I mean, if you time it right, you could easily
Reserve
kill at
guard.
least one hero from the opposing team. So turn around those team fights from 5 versus 5 to 4 versus 5. Interestingly, the Faceless Void is actually immune to his own Chronosphere. So if the Rubik steals it, the Faceless Void actually won't be stopped by the Rubik stolen Chronosphere. I'm just not sure though if Rubik himself will stop in time or not. And of course, the Faceless Void has some RNG going with his backtrack, which enables him to dodge both physical and magical attacks. And then, of course, the Rubik has other spells to steal. The Shadow Demon spell is usually good. Demonic Purge, maybe even the Disruption. The Chiquitos Ice Path. And well, there's always Macro Pyre, but I like the disables more. So Null Victory now picks their mid
Dyer's
hero.
pit.
In this case, the Puck. So Puck is going mid, and he really provides a lot of utility. Uh, he just needs to farm up his Blink Dagger, and then he can land that combination of Dream
10
Coil,
seconds to
Waning
go.
Rift, and then maybe even the Illusory Orb, either
5
offensively or defensively.
seconds.
And he's a very mobile hero, so once he gets
Reserve
level
guard.
6, he can easily start ganking lanes. So now it's the ban phase of and Red Mask Kirby should be banning actually the offlaner of Null Victory. They haven't really chosen offlaner, although arguably the Puck can go offlane. While Null Victory on the other hand should focus on banning a mid hero, since they've chosen the Puck, the Storm Spirit, and the Queen of Pain's a good choice. Although we've also seen the rise in popularity of
Radiant's ban.
Timbersaw mid. So Red Mask Killer Bees bans the Nature's Prophet. He's a formidable offlane carry. He can split push quite competently, and he has a lot of this global presence
Dyer's pit.
thanks to his skills. And saying Null Victory banned the Int Hero, and the Queen of Pain is a good ban. So now Red Bass Kirby's, I think they might choose something like the Storm Spirit, Dragon Knight. Oh, so actually they go for
Radiance.
the Conka. The Conka is actually very good mid with splash damage, and when he gets his Shadow Blade, and hopefully a Crystallis, if not a Daedalus, his Tidebringer can easily decimate the eh, the supports, at least with lucky RNG. Actually, Conka, you don't see him often played in the Western scene, but in Asian scene, he's used often. Actually, in the Western scene, the one who
10
uses this actually
seconds to go.
is Sing Sing. And actually, Conka has a good initiation with X
5
marks the spot,
seconds.
and then combo it with the Torrent and the Ghost Ship, and you have a
Reserve time.
powerful combo there. So now it's Null's Victory's turn to pick their offlaner. Uh, Several options. They can go Clockwork, they can go Bounty Hunter, they can actually even take up the Timber Saw. So actually they go Dragon Knight. So he's very tough. Not necessarily the most formidable offlaner, but I think it's pretty tough to kill, and you have the Strike-Core heroes of the Mobile Puck and the tough Alchemist and Dragon Knight. Although arguably the Alchemist isn't that tough until it gets either Farm or Chemical Rage. Of course, what's nice about this Null Victory's lineup is this could actually be a powerful offensive tri lane, while Red Mask Kirby's really has to hang, hang back. I mean, they have good counter initiation with the Jakiro and the Shadow Demon,
I'd
but
get
you
ready
really
if I
need
were you.
the basis void really doesn't provide a lot in terms of skill, at least until later on. So just give me like half a minute to check my settings, and I'll get back to you. Okay, so everything so far. Okay, so we have a pause, and now let me just as we wait for one of their players to reconnect due to bad lag. Yes, and if you look at the ping, it's quite high. So let me get back and check my settings again. Okay, so I'm back and looks like I'm streaming fine. So let me introduce the teams at the very least. So we have Sushi on the Puck for the Radiant side, Stingrays on the Alchemist. We have Shopao on the Nyx Assassin, Chris on the Rubik, and Shomai on the Dragon Knight. On the Dire side, we have Anri on the Konka, Fixel on the Jakiro, Meister Batter on the Shadow Demon, Jay on the Faceless Void, and number 7 on the Darkseer. Again, you're watching the Jeto Cup. It's an amateur tournament held in the Philippines. This is the group stages, and this is our third day of broadcasting these games. I think this is the 5th game so far, and the group stages will progress until next week. Okay, so it'll be interesting how the laning will go. I think on the Radiant side, it'll be an offensive tri-lane with the Dragon Knight, the Rubik, and the Nyx Assassin. I mean, that's a lot of disables if you get the proper skills. Then it looks like, and it looks like the Alchemist is going mid. So I guess he won't be skilling Grievous Greed if that's the case, unless he plays greedy. And our off laner is, which is actually our safe lane, Offlaner in this case is the puck. So, you know, he can do well, and I guess he'll get some farm. So now we're looking at the how the Dyer will be laning. Yeah, the Konka is mid. I mean, occasionally we've seen him on the safe lane, but here I think he'll do okay in mid. Okay, so there's finally some rotation. I mean, I expect really the puck to go mid. Uh, and then the Alchemist probably on the safe lane. And yeah, this tri lane, the Dragon Knight,
It's almost time
Nyx
for
Assassin,
bed.
and Rubik is fine. So here on the Dyer, we have the safe lane with the Shadow Demon, the Jakiro, and the Faceless Void. The Darks here on the off lane. And the Konka on at mid. So now there's pinging going on. I guess they might want to contest this top rune.
It
And
begins.
let's see how it turn out. I mean, with the Rubik on the Radiant side, they can easily lift the target and trap him on this ledge. But looks like the Dyer's playing it safe. And you know, nice ward by the Radiant, so it'll give them vision here. And the rune actually spawns at bottom. And it's a good rune. I mean, it's a very potent one, the double damage rune. And if we're talking about runes, some provide immediate advantages, and the double damage one is that. I mean, the region doesn't provide anything offensively unless you're like the Storm Spirit, and that's not until the later levels. But you know, invincibility lets you gank, and haste provides the same benefits more or less. So we have another pause here. Okay, so one of their players, the Dyer, has disconnected. So yeah, so right now we're having ping problems. So or rather latency problems. At least the game started rather fast. I mean, yesterday we had to wait for something like 5 to 10 minutes before the game started. So the chatting here, ISP Bonanza, which is a very old ISP provider, probably one of those dial-up providers back in the day when companies here were selling prepaid cards for modems. You know, 14.4 modem speeds or 28.8, and 156K actually was very fast. So while with that, you know, we'll look at mid. Actually, this is I don't like this build, but by the mid alchemist going for Givel's Greed. I mean, if you're getting this, it means you're not really getting offensive skills, and as a mid hero, you really want to max out your acid spray and your unstable concoction. I mean, if you're safe lane hard carry, it's fine to get Givel's Greed early on. But 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 as mid, I mean, you really want to make the most out of the levels you get early on. So because there's a big temptation. I mean, if you get Grievous Greed, you'll just stay in the lane and farm. And while you can net an advantage with that, the rest of your team might suffer, especially if the opposing team's mid hero is more proactive. But for the most part, let's see how this plays off. I mean, if the Dire side is too passive, then the greedy build by the Alchemist might pay off. So now the Dire pulls the creep camp, and looks like the Radiant will be contesting it, and here's the combo, but it's disrupted by the Shadow Demon, but he's now low on life, and he dies to the combination of Impale and Dragon Tail by or right clicks by the Dragon Knight, and they actually might get more kills. Now they're lifting the Phrases Void, and there was a stun also there by the Nyx. I think he could have timed it so that he waited for when the lift ended, but at least that stun also disabled the Jakiro, who was providing some defensive ice paths. But right now this offensive trial lane of the Radiant is looking very very good. And then in mid, it looked like our Alchemist in top of the CS chart with 18 hits and 2 denies, while the Dragon Knight only has 10 last hits and 2 denies. And then at the bottom lane, the Darkseers surprisingly not having that much farm, at least compared to the Puck, but at least he is getting some farm. So right now, I'd say the Radiant is winning the long lane, at least top, and the mid is in the definite advantage of the Radiant, and then it's more or less breaking even at bottom. Although I do think the Darkseer should be getting more farm, either like by creep skipping, for example. But the saving grace perhaps of the Dire team is that the supports are getting this creep pool, and that's I think 2 stacks at the very least. And and this ward could have honestly been offensively placed. I mean, to put it here to block the creeps from spawning. Other places here, although it's a bit harder as you need to look back and place yourself in a very vulnerable position. And then if you look at mid, it's still the Alchemist farming. Although yes, and the Konka is very far behind with only 8 last hits and 1 deny. And then if you look at the last hits, the top 3 farmers are on the side of the Radiant, so all 3 cores are farming extremely well. But right now it's transforming into a passive game. I mean, there's some harass here and there, like the Puck against the Darkseer, but for the most part, no one's really dying. Thankfully, the Dire Konka managed to snag the double damage rune. Actually, that's one of the rune that spawned earlier, and that's why there's this haste rune at the bottom. So now the creeps are pushing at top, and let's see how deep it goes. I mean, I think this might be perfect opportunity for the Radiant to get a gank, but the Nyx is actually rotating. I think they might make a go at the Conka's now at level 6. And actually, the Alchemist should be also at level 6, but he only has Acid Spray and the Chemical Rage. So with those 2 skills, he can't really set up ganks. I mean, those 2 skills are great for farming, but not so much for rotating or killing enemy heroes. At least not without ample support. And then in mid, our offlaner should have similar levels. Yeah, so both are level 6. But both are content to just farm in their respective lanes. So now they're pinging here. And let's see if they'll make a go. So the Rubik wanders in, but without Dragon Knight there, he can't really make anything out of it. So they just back off. So right now it's quite some time since we've seen some, at least, significant action. The Rubik is just harassing the Faceless Void, and let's look at his items. The Faceless Void, yeah, it's a smart item. The Stout Shield together with his backtrack, or yeah, his backtrack, I think he has a lot of defense. I mean, this is a very passive build by the Faceless Void. Normally, you just want to get 1 level of backtrack, and you know that 10% dodge chance is already large. And then you max out Time Walk and the Time Lock if you want to be offensive. But since he's maximizing backtrack, it means a defensive build, which isn't such a bad idea. So I think the Rubik there could have thrown the Faceless Void farther back, but he Time Walks out, so no harm, no foul, as they say in basketball. And now this Alchemist is farming this the large creep camp, while the Conquest making rotation, and with that haste rune and his combination. I mean with these three heroes here, the Jakiro, the Shadow Demon, they have a lot of initiation, and they do that against the Nyx Assassin. He pops the Carapace, but I'm not sure if it saved him time. Yeah, he dies to the Dual Breath by the Jakiro, and they also get the Rubik. So nice turnaround there by the Dire, by the Red Mask Bees, and I think we have a game. So the Dragon Knight just backs off. He has the Soul Ring, but I think the primary carry here on the side of Radiant is really will be the Alchemist. And with 4 levels of Grievous Greed, you know, he's just content to go in mid and farm. Yeah, so now this Dragon Knight's out of mana, but he always has the Soul Ring option, and the supports come back in. The Conka is returning to mid, but despite getting that kill, the Alchemist is a higher level, it's a level higher, since he was just killing the creeps. And then Dire now has a vision, especially with this ward here. So now they're picking. They might want to want to go at the Faceless Void, but he's now level 6, and does he have Chronosphere? Yes, he has. So it's actually gonna be a bit tough to fight them. The Shadow Demon and the Jakira actually go for a smoke, so they might actually be the ones who looking for a kill. As I said, combination of disruption into an ice path, and then maybe the Faceless Void can time walk in together with Chronosphere and easily get a kill. I mean, the Dragon Knight's a bit tough, but the other supports are definitely very vulnerable. So now they're making go to Rubik. Is there an Ice Path coming? Yes. Here goes the Ice Path on 2, but not much follow-up damage. Bad controls there. He time walks, but hits a creep. So there's a counter-initiation stun, and they might actually kill this Faceless Void, and that's what happens. But the Conka finally rotates in, and they might kill this Rubik. There he falls, and there the Nyx die. So it's a 2-for-1 trade favoring the Dire, but then again the Dire lost their carry, so I'm not sure how. So I'm not really sure if it was worth it. I mean, you killed 2 supports, but you lost your hard carry in turn.
Dire's middle tower is under siege.
So I'd say it's a bit of a wash, that fight there. But let's look at the graphs. At least it'll give us some insight, although graphs don't tell us everything. So in terms of XP, it's Nuvi that's leading. While in terms of gold, well, here's the significant advantage with the Radiant having a large gold, like more than 6,000. I think that's almost 7,500 gold lead. And then what I really like to see here is like better more rotation from the Alchemist since he was mid. But as I said, I think they're gearing him up to be their primary carries in mid. I mean, it's guaranteed safe farm since he was going one-on-one with the melee hero. He already has his Hand of Midas, which means he's not gonna fight early on. And I think he already has his Shadow Amulet. And then the same goes actually for the offlaners. I think the Puck could provide much in team fights, especially with his Dream Call, although he doesn't have mana right now. And well, the Darks here actually needs a lot of levels. You need to be level 11 to hit that sweet spot of the vacuum and vacuum into wall. And if yeah, and he's finally caught up in terms of the last. Well, he's still behind compared to the pack in terms of last hits. And actually, he has more farm than the Faceless Void. Which, yeah, and you know, that's a situation really when you're just facing one-on-one in the pack on the off lane instead of the usually the 3 heroes there. If we look at the net worth, yeah, it's not surprisingly the Alchemist is in the lead. Okay, so there's another pause. I think there's still some lag in the server. So it's very difficult for the players. They're having difficulty moving, controlling, but let's see whether they disconnect and reconnect again. So so despite, I think, despite the lead right now by the Radiant, the Dire isn't out of the game yet. They can definitely turn things around. And I think that's when you pick a hero like Faces Void, you're really aiming for the late game. So it's not surprising that they're losing now, but definitely you can, once we hit the 20, 30, or even the 40-minute mark, the Faces Void is gonna really ramp up in terms of efficiency. But that really assumes that he gets his farm, and right now he's not getting a lot of farm. I mean, when the enemy Nyx support assassin, the Nyx assassin who's playing support has more farm than the Faces Void, you're in big trouble. And as I said, I don't blame him. It was an formidable aggressive tri lane, and it's hard really for him to get those last hits. So there's a disconnection from the Darkseer. I think he'll try to reconnect as he's having some problems with Steam. And then perhaps arguably the Dire supports could have been more proactive. I mean, you have two range heroes, the Shadow Demon and the Jakiro. And the problem with the Nyx, as potent as he's still a melee hero. So he could have been, him and the Dragon Knight could have been zoned out. But again, there's a lot of stunts coming from the Radiant, so it's understandable. I mean, all it takes is a lift, Dragon Knight, Dragon Tail, and Nyx Impale, or really any combination there, like maybe the Nyx Impale into a lift, into a stun, and you're a dead hero. I think the saving grace really there is the Jakiro needs to hang back and then use his Ice Path to disjoint any of their combos. Or even the Shadow Demon can disrupt the target that they're going for and buy them some much needed time. So now we're resuming the game, and hopefully there won't be any more connection problems. So now it's again a bit passive, but will there be rotation from the Dire? No. The Jakiro just lets the Kunkka just get the rune and guard him from any ganks. And so now you have these two supports who are wandering around the map. I think they could be stacking some creeps or farming it. Since right now the Radiant is a bit passive. Yeah, this Nyx assassin needs to get some levels. I mean, once he hits level 6, he's gonna be all that more dangerous. Question now, where's the Dire Darkseer? The Puck doesn't actually have a lot of mana. And looks like the Dire's gathering atop, looking for a gank. So Jakiro gets a smoke, and these three heroes smoke up. But I think the Radiant's detecting this, and they back off. So here's the Darkseer. I think sorry if I missed that. I think he died earlier. So now there's the Nyx and the sentry ward's drop, but I think it's an unnecessary sentry ward. I think it's over preparation. The Nyx is just level 5 yet. He's not at level 6. So there's no gank incoming from him. But they also didn't have that much vision, so they probably wanted to play it safe rather than sorry. So in mid, there's this alchemist. And I think they could make a go at him, but he just backs off. So bottom, we have this Darkseer versus Puck fight. The Puck still doesn't have as much mana, but he has mana, so it's enough to let him escape. And
Regeneration.
you know, the they need to time this gank right. The pack has a lot of escape mechanisms. So the Shadow Demon Jakiro needs to be on point. So there's a combo. It's an Ice Pat coming. Yes, it's Ice Pat, and then he fades out, and yeah, there's the vacuum and into a, well, with in the tide. So his torrent secures the kill.
Radiant's bottom
Yes,
tower
and
is
so
being
that's what
attacked.
the Dire needs to do right
Dire's top
now.
tower is under siege.
Get those picks off, and actually they
Radiant's
could
bottom
break this
tower is
tower since
under
there's no one to
siege.
defend. But instead they play defensively
Dire's
and
top
will try
tower
to
is
defend
being
this. Will they
attacked.
pop a Gilf? Yes, they pop a
Dire has
Gilf, and I
fortified
think
structures.
the Shadow Demon might try to deny this tower, but no, the
Dire's
Dragonite
top
gets it.
tower has fallen. Dire's middle tower is being attacked. Radiant's bottom tower is under
So yeah,
siege.
so I think they could have pushed this tower, but instead this Dark here is rotating instead.
Radiant's bottom tower is being attacked.
I think there was no way they could have actually defended the top tower, so
Dire's middle
they should have
tower is
just
under
pushed this
assault.
and settled for trade. And when you're behind, that's all you. So
Dire's middle
they
tower
try
is
to deny
fallen.
the mid tower, but the Alchemist gets it and uses the Shadow Blade to escape. So the puck is back here. Will he actually dive them with his, since he has a Blink Dagger, he can use it Dream Call, but there's no follow up damage, so they back off rightly so. So the Dire pops a Observer Ward. I think they could also complement it with Sentry Wards, especially now that they know that the Alchemist has a Shadow Blade. I think right now there are two invisible heroes. The Nyx Assassin, or is he level 6 already? Well, no, yeah, they don't need to pop it at least for Nyx. He's still level 5. But the Alchemist has a Shadow Blade, and looks like the Dragonite will be going for tanky items, so he might actually get this BKB. No, none of that Shadow Blade shenanigans. And the Dire now is smoking and looking for another gank. So it's really a question of who they go for. I think they spot this Alchemist, but they'll really need either Dust or
Dire's
Sentry
bottom
Wards
tower is under
to
attack.
catch him. And the thing about the Alchemist is actually very vulnerable when he's not in his ulti form.
Dire's bottom
So I
tower is
think the
being
Shadow
attacked.
the Alchemist narrowly escapes it. He's going something offensively, but I don't think he realizes there's four of them. So he spots the four of them, but they drop a ward. The puck comes in, and so does the Rubik. So we have this big team fight, and the boat hits but doesn't hit anyone. And the Shadow Demon's the first to fall, but there's a wall there by the Darks here, and they lose the puck and spell steal, and the Alchemist goes on and kills the Jakiro. So two for one there with the Dire losing two heroes, and the Radiant only losing their offlaner. And actually they can transition this into a push since a lot of the Dire heroes are low in life, but they just back off. And the Rubik actually stole the Ghost Ship by the Honka, a very potent spell to steal, but now he's out of mana, so
Dire's
he'll need
bottom
some
tower
mana.
is under siege.
Perhaps the saving grace of all of this is it buys time for the Faceless Boy to free farm, but right now he still doesn't have a lot of gold. In terms of last hit and denies, it's still the Alchemist leading, and then Dragonite in the puck, and it's only Darkseer and Konka who are behind, significantly behind. But still, the Dire isn't out of the game yet. I mean, they still have several of their towers, so if they can stall the game, and I think that's one thing about the Alchemist. If you stall the game long enough, his potency drops off. Especially since he's not the hardest carry in terms of if you have two six slotted carries duking it out. The Alchemist isn't really the best hero there. But what's good is that he gets his six slots faster than the enemy carries, and at this rate, he's definitely leading in terms of especially against the Faces Void, who virtually has nothing. He just has a poor man shield and no farming item, no damage item, not even a defensive item. Yeah, so the Alchemist now has a Son of Midas, Boots of Travel to give him mobility, and the Maelstrom, which is both a farming item and a
Dire's middle tower
offensive
is under
item.
attack.
And of course, he has the Shadow Blade to set up ganks. And I think he can soon sell this Soul Ring and get another item, probably a BKB. I think a BKB will help, especially since it'll negate the damage from the Conka, at least some of it. Damage from the Darkseer, and definitely the damage from the Shadow Demon and the Jakiro. Once he gets that, it's only really the Faces Void he has to fear, and okay, so there's this engagement at the bottom. The Nyx was trying to gank, but he doesn't know there's a sentry ward here. So the Chrono Spear expended. The Nyx stuns his chasers, and you're going on the Rubik, and the Rubik falls, and the Nyx assassin also falls. I think that's really lack of rotation here on the side of the Radiant. Both the Puck and the Alchemist are just content to farm, giving up the skills, and I think there's no way those two supports could have won that 5. I mean, you have this 5-man lineup, but on the other hand, the Radiant's dealing significant damage to towers. Yeah, and this top tower is about to go down. The question is whether the Jakiro manages to deny it. And looks like he will, as the Alchemist backs off at the last second. So 1, 2, and the Jakiro denies it. Still, a moral victory for the Radiant nonetheless. I mean, the Dire's losing map control. But good deny there by the Jakiro. Actually, I think the Alchemist could have stayed there and gotten the last hit. And there's not much really the Jakiro can do to kill him, although the rest of his teammates were coming in. So for the most part, I think that's really a misplay. I mean, with the Radiant supports, if you know your teammates aren't coming in, you should just back off. They should have sacrificed the tower at the bottom instead of coming to defend it. There's no way they really stood a chance against all these 5 heroes. So come back there slightly by the Dire, but they're also losing map control. The question really is, will fall on their carry. Will the Faces Void be able to find farm? And looking at the Conka items, he has drums. I think he should get the Shadow Blade so that he can set up more ganks. Or if he's aiming for the late game, he might go for the Daedalus. The Darkseer almost has his mech up. And yeah, nice placement there of the wards to sentry wards to avoid getting gank, and some dewarding as a bonus.
Dire's bottom tower is under siege.
And the Alchemist now has his Basher.
I hope that's part of your plan.
So I think it's a good item that scales very well and can always upgrade it later on. So now the Dire's going for the mid, and Radiant just defend it. The Shadow Demon's actually lone life and gets killed by the Alchemist stun. And the Puck rotates in, only one team call, but it might enough to kill the Darkseer. No. Time Chrono Spear saves him, and we have a prolonged fight here at mid. The Puck eventually dies, and the Darkseer finally falls to Dragon Knight, and the same might happen to this Jakiro. So it's a team wipe on the side of the Dire, and the Radiant only lost their Puck. So a offlaner for your entire team. That's a very, very bad trade. And I think the Radiant can now transition into pushing this mid tower, and the Alchemist will instead just defend. I think that's fine. I mean, the Dragon Knight, what's nice about his ulti form is that it deals poison damage, so it means this tower is taking more damage than the normal, and I think it'll go down quickly. So yeah, so now they take it, and I think they should back off, especially with the Dire Heroes coming in, or at least respawning. So yeah, I think Dragon Knight had to use this BKB there, that's why it's on cooldown. And then actually, very nice item progression here. We're talking about the power of the Alchemist. So eventually, this Grievous Greed is working out. He's like worth more than... He's actually, the Alchemist right now is worth more than the entire team of the Dire. This 10,000, 13,000, 14,000, 15,000. So yeah, so that's the power of Grievous Greed with the Hand of Midas, and he also now has his Abyssal Blade. So we're talking about the Alchemist reaching his 6 slots faster than the opposing team, and I think he has that. I think maybe he might sell the Soul Ring and the Hand of Midas later on to get other items. But right now he's he's at the peak, especially when the next strongest hero on the opposing team is the Conka, who just has face boots and drums. Yep, face boot and drums. He's getting close to his amulet, but he's not really in a good position to contest the enemy. Perhaps you can have a perfectly comboed vacuum wall to swing the fight. I mean, the good thing about the wall is that the stronger your enemies, the stronger the illusions you control is as well. Although the problem with Alchemy Solution is that your illusions aren't getting the most damage from the items. I mean, they get the bonus damage from if he got stat items, but with this damage bonus from the Missile Blade, he's not really getting it, nor the ones from the Maelstrom. So now I think the Radiant has this 4 protect 1 strategy. You have this 4 heroes grouped up together and now smoking, looking to set a gank, and that buys space for their alchemist to free farm. And then the Dire, they're now moving as one unit. I think they were suspecting smoke gank and pop a dust, but they find nothing. So the problem here is that the more the Faceless Void groups with them, the more that he's not farming. He's actually got this Morbid Mask, probably getting a mask, aiming to farm a Mask of Madness, but this is really dirt poor, especially for a hard carry. But thankfully he now has more gold than the enemy supports. Actually, when your Rubik has a Ogre Club, that's a very tough support. So the Alchemist doesn't find anyone and stuns himself. And let's look at the other supports. So you have the Radiant there, and the Nyx. The Nyx just has an urn and Arcane Boots. He actually was looking for targets with Vendetta, but with the Dire Heroes group up together, the Vendetta isn't as useful. But at least you're keeping them on their toes. And again, when your Faceless Void is forced to rotate with you, that means that's time they're not farming. Perhaps the only weakness here of the Radiant team is no one has a mech. I mean, that burst heal can really help. While the opposing Darks here already he hasn't. He has actually the recipe already, but he just has to have the courier deliver it. I think that's a misplay. Just control your courier. So there's a fight in mid. They're making a go at this Dragon Knight, was a bit tough. The Face Void expenses Chronosphere, and there's a counter Chronosphere, I think. So actually the Dragon Knight eventually died there. So good fight so far for the Dire. But now this is the point where they might lose heroes. Yeah, they lose the Conka, the Shadow Demon, and this Alchemist is really very tough, and they might get this Jakiro. So there, a stun and one hit, and he falls down. The Faceless Void actually narrowly escapes with barely 20 hit points. But if the Radiant just pushes this, there's not much they can do to defend. So there's a pause by the next assassin as their puck player has disconnected. Yeah, disconnection. And yeah, and right now I think it was honestly a greedy build by Nuvi, especially with that Alchemist getting Grievous Greed early on. But Red Mask Kirby's didn't really have anything to punish them for it, and now you have this snowball effect, and expect the game actually to end by the 30-minute mark. So very good play. So very good play from the Radiant side, and expect really the fight not to last any longer. I mean, if they push it, they can actually take down this tier 3 tower and take down Rax. And so they've resumed the game, and now let's see what happens. Actually, earlier I also forgot the Dragon Knight died early on, but he was actually taking a lot of the brunt of the damage, and he was very tough. It's actually the puck there that was the casualty after they killed Dragon Knight, but they got a team wipe in return. So I'm not sure if that's a buyback or yeah. No, it's just a time that and the Shadow Demon easily dies quickly, comes in and dies. So now with the Darkseer up and the Kunkka, I think they can contest this, but their melee Rax has fallen. So now I think the Radiant should just back off, wait for the rest of their teammates to come in and make another go, perhaps at the top tower, since this tier 2 tower at bottom is still alive. Although it's taking some damage from range creeps. So the Dragon Knight, let's see what his items are. He already has a Water Reaver, so it's looking to be really the tank and take the brunt of the damage. I think, yeah, this might be a heart. And then, yep, the next assassin now using, okay, his Vendetta expires, finding no ganks. But this might be a pick off for the Dire. So they spot both the Rubik and the Nyx Assassin. But the Rubik more or less distracts them and they walk into the wall and the Rubik dies. Nice carapace there by the Nyx Assassin. Buy some time for the Alchemist, but the stun there by the Jakiro buys them some time. But it's hard for them really to kill this Alchemist, but he might die now. They pop the dust so he can't escape. He throws away the stun and kills, gets some kills. So so that was actually a good initiation by the Dire, catching the Nyx Assassin Rubik. But yeah, when the rest of the heroes came in, they really couldn't do much. So yeah, and that's just the gap. It's team wipe again on the side of the Dire. And you have these very tanky heroes, the Dragon Knight, the Alchemist, and the Puck is very mobile. Saki farm up Ultimate Orb. I think he might be looking to get the Sight of Vice. And again, making a push at this top tower. With just the Jakiro and the Faceless Void, I don't think they can contest this. The problem really here is the Faceless Void. His Chronosphere is down. But the Radiant just plays it safe and backs off. Right now, I think the Radiant can just go for Roshan and buy them added insurance or security. And hopefully, someone gets the mech. Yeah. They're just relying probably on their Shadows to heal. The Rubik's getting the mech, no. Getting a BKB. And okay, so the Fox may go the bottom together with the Alchemist. And I think that was an overextension, so the Alchemist dies. But he has so much gold, he buys back. So then bring and go the Spock. Will he escape in time? So he jaunts, blinks, and then there, with the Alchemist, with his buyback and Boots of Travel, goes back into the fight, stuns the Kunkka, and they're dead. So he's looking for the Jakiro, but honestly, I think he could just focus on this bottom racks, focus on your objectives. Instead, they're making a go at this Darkseer. So defensive disruption there by the Shadow Demon, loses his life, and then the Darkseer dies. So I think this is GG. They could either go for this bottom barracks, he can go straight for these towers, and that's what the Alchemist is doing. Their top tower actually is fallen. Dragon Knight can go for this rack. So just end the game now. Break this tier 4 tower. And end the game before 30 minutes. I mean, he has 15 seconds to prove me true, but they want to play it safe. Yeah, get his bottom racks. Sorry, the top melee racks and the top. So now it's mega creeps. So now the Faceless Void just buying time. Doesn't even get to kill the Puck, and they're GG at 30 minutes in. So hopefully we'll wait for the throne to explode, and yes. So congrats to Nuvi with 29 kills, and Kirby's has 14 kills, and that's a well played game. And thanks for watching. Hope you tune in again to the Jeto Cup. This is Charles casting for the Jeto Cup, and thanks.